Alright, in this video we're going to take a look at Telescope and FZF and compare them and where they're at right now as far as functionality goes, and see some of the cool new Telescope stuff and some stuff that's still a work in progress. And so let's take a look first at looking at your project files. Now if I open up G files, which we can see here, I can go through and get nice previews and look through all that, and that's not bad. And this is FZF. Now we'll do the same thing using Telescope, and we'll just pop through these. Now the one nice thing about Telescope is that it uses buffers for the preview, and that's really nice. In FZF I'm using BAT as the previewer, and it works well and it's nice, but it is nice to have a buffer as the preview just automatically. You don't have to do anything with Telescope. With FZF you might want to automatically have a way to just look at something like your notes or files in your runtime path. So let's take a look at some differences here. So I had removed this code for FZF to do this, but I put it back so that I can show you. You can go through here and see your notes listed out, and you could set up a previewer if you wanted to. I don't have that there. And with Telescope, I'm using their file explorer because I want to be able to not just view notes, but also create new ones. And you can do that by typing in the file name and hitting Control E, and that'll create a new file for you. So if we go here, I can just do a file explorer for the whole system. And now let's look at the FZF version of viewing my Vim runtime files. So that's cool, you know. All right. And again, you automatically get as your preview a buffer, and again you can set up previews as we saw with get files with FZF, and this is not using buffers though. This is using BAT as a viewer, and it's nice, but you can see the syntax coloring is different, and so it's nice to just have that buffer open as your preview. It makes perfect sense to do it that way. Alright, and the difference between setting up fuzzy finders for certain folders is here with FZF, you just use the FZF Vim files, pass in the path that you want to use, and then you have this command here that you can use. And in Telescope there's a little bit more you have to do, but it's kind of more straightforward. And so what we can do is we'll go into Lua. Alright, and you can see here that I'm taking the built-in find files and I'm wrapping it in my own function called Vim RTP, and you know, I give it a little title for the top, not shortening path, and I'm setting the working directory to Vim, so similar in the width, and so you can kind of customize these for different things. And this was the same thing for here with the Telescope, with the nvim config, you know, same idea. These mine are all kind of the same, and you can choose whether you want to use the file browser built in or whether you want to use the find files built in. And so that's pretty nice. And another thing that you can get from the README file, which has a configuration recipes, is this cool little function here that I'm using for that project files, which is that you can automatically use Git files if you're in a Git repo, but if you're not, it'll fall back onto find files. So that's nice, whereas in FZF, I would have to, pick which one that I'm in. You know where you are usually, but it's kind of convenient to just have one find files, and it figures out whether or not to use Git files or find files rather than you having to do that. So that's nice. All right, so let's go here. And the live grep is very cool. And for a lot of the projects that you're on, it's perfectly fine. But for really large projects, there's an issue right now of live grep being slow. And for most things you'll work on, it's really fast, and it's using ripgrep behind the scenes if you have ripgrep installed. But I happen to be in the, let's see, what is different here? What did I change? Okay. Oh, weird. How'd I end up typing Java into this? All right, strange. All right, well, anyway, as I was saying, if you're in a not humongous project, then this won't happen to you. But right now, I happen to be in Dino, and so if you go here and you start typing something, it can really hold things up. It takes a while to get going. And that's because it's really huge. And, if I'm trying to type right now, and I can hear my system grinding away. And now finally, so that comes back. And so, Dino is a huge project. And so they're working on this. And when you use grep string and it pre-filters the results, then it's a little bit faster. And you can also set it not to grep until you make it to, a few characters in, but still that's kind of slow. Whereas here, if I go to this and I just start typing on FZF, it's faster. They have this kind of figured out. So anyway, the issue is on the Telescope repo 392, and maybe by the time you see this, they're already fixing this. They may or may not actually do some of the improvements for live grep. They've done it with grep string, if you've seen that. And so if we wanted to find, let's see here, and we did Telescope and we did grep string. You see that's pre-filtered and fast there, and then if you wanted to go from there, but the live grep is a little bit slow. It's a lack of async issue, so we'll see how that comes along. Now, if we take a look at the difference between the buffers here, do I have, yeah, okay, at least I have something in the buffers. All right, so if we look at FZF, the only other buffer that's open is the Lua file for Telescope. And again, it's really nice having the previews be buffers, and this is with Telescope. All right, and then the always handy help. So one thing that's really great is automatically you can see your previews in the buffer, and you get to look at it right there, and so you don't necessarily have to go pop in and open it. With FZF, you could set up a preview. It's easy to find stuff, but it's really nice to use the Telescope version in this case. Marks are nice. Again, previews. Whereas marks here, you kind of get the nice inline preview. Again, those are things that you can set up, but the defaults in Telescope are really nice. You don't have to really do anything. And so those are a lot of the differences there. You can see that you could use either one. I think, with FZF, if you're used to using it out in the terminal, then, you come into Vim and you have the same experience. Telescope's very similar. One of the things was that, I put all this work into getting FZF the way I wanted it, so I didn't want to do a bunch of work in Telescope to get up to feature parity. But as it turns out, the Telescope API makes it really easy to do. And so that's not really a blocker. The other thing is I was held back by the fact that I have FZF out in the terminal, and I like the fact that it's the same experience, same look and feel when I'm in Vim. But then I realized I almost never use the terminal, on its own, except for to, open Vim. Once I'm in Vim, I use Neovim's built-in terminal. I don't really ever need to worry about having that kind of different experience out in the terminal. Once I'm working on something, a PR or whatever, I'm not really out ever in the terminal, so it's no big deal. So having Telescope, in here is nice. And really, the hybrid approach right now, using the grepping with FZF and most everything else with Telescope is just fine. They feel similar, and Telescope has some really nice configurability that's easy to do, and some things are still really nice with FZF. So those are some of the differences, and you can take a look and pop through them. If you have Telescope installed and you just type Telescope in and do the tab, you have all the different things that you can possibly want to do right here, and they'll all pop up as lists, just the same way FZF works. Same idea. Just pop through. So anyway, they're both really great. I think Telescope's coming along really nicely. It has a nice feel to it, and you can customize it really well. And if you spent enough time figuring out how to do some more of the complicated things with FZF, then a lot of this stuff is really straightforward to you. I think if you haven't, then Telescope might be a little more approachable because of the defaults that make a lot of sense. You don't have to do a lot of config unless you want to, and what you do then is you just, wrap the built-in and change some settings, like we did here. So, just take the file browser and set some settings, whereas there's a little bit, I think, more of a learning curve with FZF. Either way, you can't go wrong, and you do get this nice feeling with Telescope, and having the preview be a buffer is really nice, and I think that's a huge selling point. And it's also very fast on most things and coming along nicely. And definitely check out both and see what you like. I have a feeling that the roads are leading to Telescope for the most part, but there's a lot of awesomeness with FZF, and so I recommend you check them out. So thank you for watching. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.